But you see, in 1979, when I was standing before the judge, and the judge said this right here, say, Eddie Spencer, if that man die, you will get the death penalty. And here I was, just getting ready to turn 17 years old. Standing before that judge, and that judge, I had already been certified as an adult. I could not go back to Columbia Training School or Oakley Training School. Here I was, just getting ready to turn 17 when I should have been graduating and getting ready to graduate from high school. I was graduating to Parchman Penitentiary. And I know some of you all, you looking at this, there's a picture and you saying, why is that glass cracked? I left it like that for a purpose. You know why? Because that right there represents my life. My life was cracked, basically beyond repair. And a lot of people, not just only that my life was cracked, here I was just getting ready to turn 17 years old, couldn't even read on a second grade level, was angry, didn't mind picking up a gun and blowing your brains out and take money to support my habit. Here I was not only angry, but had already been to Columbia Training School 4 times, Oakley Training School 3 times, and I also had a little visit to Whitfield because the judge says, I need to find out what's going on in that young man's life. But they never could diagnose a crushed spirit. You see, I was angry because of the situation that we was living in. When I say that we was just poor, P-O. And I know they talk about, poor education and everything, but also poor living. And I was angry waking up in a 3-room house, not a 3-bedroom house, but a 3-room house with 11 family members. And it was 12 family members, 10 kids, 5 boys in one bed, 5 girls in the other bed, all piled up in the same room. And I was angry. I was angry because when I didn't have any shoes to wear, I went to my mom. I said, Mom, give me a pair of shoes. The bottom of my shoes had fallen out. And my mom gave me these pair of shoes. And she said, son, she said, when Mom gets some money, I will buy you some shoes. And I thought that because Mom said that these shoes was all right, that it was all right for me to wear to school. And I never will forget that day when I stepped in that classroom, those kids laughing at me, saying, look at Eddie Spencer, he got little girl's shoes on. That day I made a promise. I made a promise to myself. I made a promise to all of those who laughed at me that nobody would never laugh at me again. And that's the reason I turned to the criminal world. You see, I learned how to fight. I learned how to take what I wanted. I learned how to survive, but nobody ever told me that, Eddie Spencer, this right here, your living condition does not define your future. I thought it did. I thought that I would always be poor. I thought that I would always live in the condition that I was living in, and the only way that I could be free is I got to go out there and take. And here I was, I never will forget when the judge said, when I was standing before him, I had been in that courtroom many times, but now here I was, have graduated from the juvenile court to the circuit court. And that circuit court judge said, Eddie Spencer, I'm going to do society a favor, and I'm going to do you a favor. If that man die, you will get the death penalty. And I never will forget my mom crying out in the courtroom in front of a whole courtroom full of folks, saying, Judge, whatever you do, don't kill my son. I know that he's bad, but he's a good boy. I know that he's bad, but he's a good boy. Some will say that's a contradiction. But my mom, she was able to see something in me that I did not see in myself. She said, I know he's bad, but he's a good boy. My mom went home to be with the Lord February the 1st of this year. And 33 years later, she still holds that, saying, I knew that there was something in you, that your behavior did not define who you was. I saw something different. And you see, she was able to see what the Bible said, calling that which what? Be not as though it is. I tell you, when I went to Parchment, the judge, when the man did not die, received 10 mandatory years, then another addition, 15 years. And they said, I hope that prison would change it because you've been to Columbia Training School 4 times, Oakland Training School 3 times. You've been to Woodfield and you've been shot 4 times before you reached the age of 16. Eddie, what it's going to take to change you? I hope that prison would change you. But my friend, I want to tell you, prison would not have changed Eddie Spencer. Eddie Spencer would have went to Parchment and spent those 10 years and came right back out doing the same thing, living the same way. Because there was a recidivism spirit that was controlling my life, that every time I walked out of the door, I was always heading right back. You know why? Because Eddie Spencer walked out of those doors many times without a purpose, not knowing that he had something to give, until one day in 1982, 3 decisions that I made that changed my life. And I know a lot of people say, oh, we hear that from everybody that goes to prison. Number one, it's in 1982, I gave my life to the Lord Jesus Christ. And I know many say, oh, everybody that go to prison, they find what? Go ahead, say it. Go ahead, they find what? Jailhouse religion. But see, I did not find religion. I found a relationship that changed my life. And not only that, but then God began to put people in my life that taught me how to break away from the influence, the people that was controlling my life, the friends that I had that said, Eddie, you can't change. You will always be like this right here. To break that power away from over my life and begin to say, hey, I'm getting out of this organization. I'm no longer going to return. They saying, what are you going to do? You've been like this all of your life. But that day I made that 3rd decision that I was getting out. Then the next decision, I had to face my fear. I walked out of the classroom. I made it to the 7th grade, not because I passed to the 7th grade, but I made it to the 7th grade because a lot of teachers did not want Eddie Spencer in their classroom, so they pushed me on and everything, and they said, hey, just be quiet, don't act up, we're going to take care of you, and they always passed me, and I do not I don't have anything against those teachers, because if Eddie Spencer was in my classroom, I would have pushed him on too, because of the fear. But you see, when those things changed my life, hear how God took a young man who was angry, who was bitter, who had no future, who some says that there was no hope. And even at the age of 14, they wrote an article on me that said, there's no hope. We have done everything that we know how. We have sent him to training school. We have diagnosed him at Woodfield, everything. And it seemed like there's nothing that can change. But then, that day in 1982, when I opened up my heart and said, Lord, I want you to change me. I don't know how you're going to do it, but I'm going to trust you. And that day, when I got ready to walk out of prison in 1988, January the 14th of 1988. I never thought that 32 years later, January the 14th, the same day, the same time, the same month, that Eddie Spencer would be standing up giving the inauguration prayer at the government inauguration. You see how God can change life? You see, we reform system, but we transform lives. That's the only thing that can make a difference is when we begin to transform the life of those. If Eddie Spencer can change, anybody can change. Because my mama said, I know that he's bad, but he's a good boy. God bless you.